Next on the Broadway Show, Tick, Tick, Boom explodes on the big screen and on Netflix. We're talking to Andrew Garfield and Lin-Manuel Miranda. Plus, Money and Power, the rise and demise of an empire in the Lehman Trilogy. We're catching up with Adrian Lester, and you'll get to know one of the stars of Caroline or Change, New Kenji. I'm Tamsen Fadal, and this is the Broadway Show. So glad you could be here for this totally jam-packed episode of the Broadway Show. I'm Tamsen Fadal. Out this month on Netflix, it's Tick, Tick, Boom. Directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda and starring Andrew Garfield, it's the film adaptation of Jonathan Larson's pre-Rent musical. Paul Wontorek talked to Andrew Garfield about what this role means to him.
Hello. Hi. Welcome. I'm Jonathan Larson.
This is a beautiful film and a beautiful performance. Congratulations. How does it feel to see the finished product, to see what you guys pulled off?
God, it's really overwhelming. I'm not going to lie. This one is very, very special to all of us, and I'm no exception. I feel so connected to this piece, so connected to John and to Lin and to this whole company, and I'm so proud of Lin. I'm so grateful to him that he had the courage to take this on and the kind of insanity to bring us all along for the ride. Like, I feel like Jonathan is smiling. I do feel that he, you know, he's happy with what we've done. He was always our North Star. And, you know, our attitude for the whole thing was to let him come through, let him lead us and guide us in a, you know, kind of mystical, spiritual way. And we felt him so strong. I feel him right now as we talk. You know, he was such a profound artist, and he changed musical theater forever, and he's created ripples in people. You know, there may not be a Lin-Manuel Miranda if it wasn't for John Larson.
What was the most fascinating thing about his story that you learned?
Yeah, well, it was like Lin was introducing me to a long-lost brother that I didn't know I had or existed. So one of the things I love about John is that he made everything an occasion. You see it in the Boho Day sequence in the film. It's like, you know, he wants to keep the party going, and like everything's an event. Like nothing's ordinary. It's all a celebration of this moment. And he was someone that I think had an acute awareness of the shortness of life. He was so sensitive, he's so tender, his heart was always on his sleeve, and his skin was translucent and so thin. He felt all of the wounds of the world so personally, and that was what enabled him to be the artist that he was and to write this kind of opus and this love letter to his community. You know, there were so many aspects that we needed to honor, and we definitely worked as hard as we could to do that. I work at the Moondance Diner. Check. 1 sec. Do we take reservations? No, we do not take. We're a diner.
There are so many beautiful, memorable moments and location shoots. Is there any specific days on set that really stand out for you?
Oh yeah, I mean, where I immediately go is the Delacorte in Central Park and singing Why at the piano solo. Live, you know, it was really important that was live. I wanted to get at least a few takes that were clean and live and raw and vulnerable, because it was a really important emotional crossroads for John, where he's trying to figure out how to move through this terrible moment of loss and devastation and grief. And of course, he figures it out at the piano. He figures it out with a song, and a tender one at that. So that one, you know, the magic of that night. And the second take, we got it.
What do you feel when you see the actual footage of Jonathan? There's some great video of him actually performing Tick, Tick, Boom. And I know you recreate some of those moments, but when you see the footage of him, what are the emotions? It's
really moving. It's deeply overwhelming to think that I get to have a spot in the attempt to honor such an incredible artist, someone who is so profoundly life-changing for musical theater and for so many other musical theater artists, Lin included. You know, to feel like I have a chance to honor that person and to give him more life. Yeah, to quote Tony Kushner, that is the most profound gift that I get to be a part of.
And as we mentioned, this is Hamilton creator Lin-Manuel Miranda's directorial debut. Paul also caught up with Lin.
I love that you chose Tick, Tick, Boom for your first feature film as a director. Obviously, you have a lot of opportunities coming your way, and it's really meaningful to know that you chose something that is so special to you.
Yeah, well, Rosa Stevens said to Jonathan, write what you know. And if I know anything, it's that Jonathan Larson paved the way for me to have a life in this business. In the Heights and Hamilton don't exist without Rent being the trailblazing force that it is, with bringing contemporary music to the Broadway stage, with bringing the most diverse cast I'd ever seen to a Broadway stage. All of the lessons from Rent are things that are theses that I advanced in my work, because that was the show that made me feel like I could write a musical one day.
It's also a great opportunity to tell more of the story of Jonathan, because, you know, the original show obviously was based on his performance. And now we can sort of just take it even farther towards sort of biopic land a little bit, right?
Yeah, and first of all, Jonathan Larson had the audacity to write a biomusical when he was 29 years old. Who does that? But the answer, of course, is that he did hear a ticking clock. He did spend his 20s writing a musical no one wanted to produce. And I think that show really came out of his frustration with where he was in his life, in his career. It was his way of processing why he was doing what he was doing. I think he needed to write this show to clear space for Rent, to let go of the bitterness that came with no one making Superbia. And as a result, we have a snapshot of this artist as a young man, and it's a self-portrait.
I moved to New York City in 1990, so I really appreciated the detail you captured. There's a scene on Jonathan Larson's rooftop, and you see the Hudson River, and I was like, yes, that is the exact view of the Hudson River you would see from that street. So I really appreciated that detail.
Yeah, we had to CGI out a lot of buildings that exist now that didn't exist then, particularly with that skyline. The Jersey skyline has changed dramatically, I was sad to learn. And that there's so many things you don't realize because we just live in the city and we don't see how it's changed around us. But, finding those streets that look unchanged. We were so lucky that the pool that Jonathan used to swim in has been untouched by time and is still there. And he has lyrical references to things that are still in that pool, the tiled red and green stripes at the bottom. That song only makes sense if you film it on location. So there were so many weird gifts from Jonathan over the course of making this film.
There are so many Broadway stars, Broadway songwriters, Broadway producers in this movie. It was so exciting to watch that. How important was it to you to sort of bring the whole community into this movie?
Yeah, a lot of the things that people consider Broadway cameos, I didn't consider cameos. I know how good theater actors are, and I want to work with them. So of course I'm gonna hire Laura Benanti to be in a focus group scene, because she's gonna make whatever we wrote 50 times funnier, and think of 50 things we haven't thought of. But to the point of the Sunday sequence, which I will try to talk about without spoilers, that's Jonathan's homage to Sondheim Sunday in the Park with George. And John only ever heard it with himself singing alone, maybe Roger Bart singing back up behind him. But that's it. There's like a two-man band. And I have the opportunity as the filmmaker to create a choir every bit as lush as Sondheim's Sunday. So who do I put there except Jonathan Larson's dream choir? And I was really inspired by those cheesy posters you see sometimes where it's like Amy Winehouse sitting next to James Dean, sitting next to Marilyn Monroe. And I wanted John to have this galaxy brain moment where it's not just the legends that he grew up loving and people from shows that he watched growing up, but also glimpses of future shows that I know were influenced by Jonathan Larson. One is mine, one is Janine Tesori show, and even future collaborators of Jonathan that the 1990 John hasn't met yet. But they get to be in the Sunday sequence. And so it was so exciting to basically build a choir so loud that Jonathan can hear it wherever he is right now.
The only sure way to make it to Broadway is the subway. New York's MTA just revived a classic ad campaign celebrating the return of Broadway shows. It features characters from some of Broadway's most distinctive current running shows: Moulin Rouge, Chicago, Phantom, Six, and much more. The ad recreates a classic from 1977 featuring Eartha Kitt, Carol Channing, and others. All rise. Aaron Sorkin's To Kill a Mockingbird is back on Broadway and bringing audiences to their feet 8 times a week. It's your last chance to see Jeff Daniels in his starring role as Atticus Finch. Greg Kinnear takes over the part in January. But there are so many other great stars in Mockingbird, including Portia. She plays Calpurnia. Let's send it out to Charlie Cooper.
Thanks, Tamsen. Broadway's To Kill a Mockingbird returns with some new cast members, one of them being Portia, who plays Calpurnia in the hit show. I got to chat with her about how the story really hits home now and so much more. How do you play this role without feeling kind of triggered? How do you mentally prepare yourself for this kind of role?
I think that you have to release into being triggered. I don't think you can tell this story and not be triggered. Otherwise, it doesn't really work for the journey that Calpurnia needs to take. As a company, we've been addressing these issues from the very beginning since I've come in, and it's a company that cares a lot. I just feel like I couldn't do this with any other group of people. We've become a family, you know, backstage, on stage, in front of. I couldn't imagine doing this with anyone else.
After going through a year of so much turmoil, why is this story particularly so important to return back to the stage?
Well, some may say post January 6th, post George Floyd, and I say my Black body has lived this my entire life. It's my grandmother's story. I remember the reason why I was not allowed to read this was because my grandfather's brother actually went missing after being accused of, you know, messing with a white woman down in Alabama when this was before I was born, and it literally changed him. And so I feel like this story is relevant. So putting it on a stage and letting it be a difficult story, letting it be a hard story to tell, not knowing where it wants to land, is important.
What drew you to this role, especially as someone who wasn't even allowed to read the book, and then, of course, your family experience?
Yeah, exactly that. You know, being a little bit of a rebellious person. It's like, oh, I wasn't allowed to do this, maybe now. But I think every obstacle is an opportunity. And we have been dealing with this as a society for so long. And finally, to be able to give voice to those who who have not had a voice, enticed me.
There's still a whole lot more to talk about in this week's edition of the Broadway Show. Money and Power, the rise and demise of an empire in the Lehman Trilogy. We're catching up with Adrian Lester. The Broadway Show is back in just a couple of minutes. Welcome back to the Broadway Show. I'm Tamsen Fadal. Let's get to it. It's a story about rise and demise, profit and pain. It's a Lehman Trilogy directed by Sam Mendes. 3 actors playing 53 different characters. Paul Wontorek caught up with one of the stars, Adrian Lester.
Thanks, Tamsen. Olivier Award winner Adrian Lester has had a robust 30-year career, but he's finally making his Broadway debut as one of the brothers in the Lehman Trilogy. We caught up outside the Niederlander Theater, home of the acclaimed new play. I'm so thrilled you're on Broadway.
I'm thrilled to be here.
You have had such a rich career. I have been watching it from afar. I've seen you in film and TV, and you've done so much on the British stage and in the New York stage, but Broadway is new to you.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to be able to add that category to the CV or the resume?
It feels like I've just taken care of some unfinished business. That's what it feels like. I had unfinished business at Broadway. I kept knocking on the door and no one was in, and then suddenly the door opened. So it's nice, it's really nice to be here. And I do pinch myself sometimes as I'm coming down through Times Square, seeing all the neon lights, and the song goes off in my head, and I'm an old romantic. But yeah, it's nice to be here.
What is it like to be a part of the Lehman Trilogy? What about this story really intrigued you personally and made you want to tell this story to audiences?
I wasn't a part of the original cast. I saw the show, and I was amazed at what the three actors achieved for the whole evening. For those that don't know, it's just three actors being everybody. And like many actors, I came away thinking that is a masterclass in acting and directing. And so when the chance came for me to be a part of it, I jumped at it. And it has been tough and hard and brilliant. And I think we've been stretched as actors. Every time we do this show, we get a real workout.
And you're playing multiple characters, and there's a lot of jumping between characters.
Between characters, between accents, between ages. It's, yeah, it's fun.
So you really have to differentiate because you're really relying on the audience sort of following everything that's happening with just the three of you.
Yeah, and we don't change costume, so we're in the same costume all the way through. But Sam was interested in paring away what was unnecessary and seeing how much we could do with very, very, very little. And sometimes it's just a tiny prop or a gesture or a way of holding the shoulders that tells everyone now I'm being someone else, that's all it takes. Or the accent changes, it becomes something else or whatever, and then suddenly you know this person's different. And the audience go with it, and they remember. We do children, and then we do the children growing up in front of the audience's eyes, and they remember, they're with us. It's nice.
It seems like a wild ride, even the set. I mean, it just feels like this.
The set is a ride. Yeah. Everyone has to have a ride on the set. It's a glass box, as Devlin's designed, a glass box that spins. And so it's like looking across Wall Street, looking across a busy section of the society of New York at night, and you see these little glass boxes, these offices with quiet chairs and strip lights. That's exactly what you get as the set before the lighting effect takes hold and the revolve happens. And yeah.
You're actually, do I have this right? An officer and a commander of the Order of the British Empire? That is true.
That's
in
true.
addition to being a fantastic actor.
Thank you. I have the right to drive my sheep over Tower Bridge. I'm allowed to do that.
Is this a fact that you like to make sure everybody in a room knows when you enter?
Yeah, if you have sheep and you want to get them from south of the river to the north of the river in London, just ask me, because I'm allowed to take them over the bridge.
Broadway is back, and so is the Broadway Show. Thanks so much for sticking around. I'm Tamsen Fadal.
Tough and dreary and all disheveled, 16 feet below sea level.
It's Broadway's must-see musical of the moment, the electrifying revival of Caroline or Change. Here's Charlie Cooper with the story.
Thanks, Tamsen. All eyes are on Akinji, who's starring as the Moon in Caroline or Change. We sat down at the Renaissance Hotel to talk about why the show is so relevant right now more than ever. You have this really special role where you're up in your own world almost, and then you're able to interact a little bit more on stage. Can you kind of talk about what that's like? It's almost like you get this experience of watching the show while being a part of the show.
Absolutely. It's kind of like a out-of-body experience, because I'm singing to them, I'm singing with them, and then there are moments where I'm still on stage, the light's on me, and I'm taking it in. And being in this space makes me feel like I can reach out and touch the people in the mezzanine. I'm like, cool. Hi everyone, we're gonna watch this together. But it's really magical. As the Moon, I'm trying to bring guidance, I'm trying to bring warmth to Caroline and all the other characters that play an integral part of her journey. And to be able to do that from afar, but also still feel very connected to her is really a role that I've never been able to do before.
Yeah, what attracted you to that particular unique role?
First of all, Caroline or Change, about a black woman in the 60s, reminds me of my own mom, and our struggles as black women, and these struggles and these lessons that we learn, we pass on to our children and children's children. It gets passed on. Just knowing that I was being considered for this show was really important to me to want to be a part of it.
I kind of creeped around a little bit on your social media, and I read that your mom actually, at the age of 4, worked in like a tobacco field.
She did.
How does she feel to know that her daughter is has this amazing platform and is doing such truly incredible things?
Wow. She's very proud. I mean, my mother is like, she's God to me. She was my mentor. I get to show her different, I show her performances, videos, and her knowing that, I'm doing this interview as well, and she'll be able to see it on TV. And she's just really proud, and I'm proud of being her daughter.
And that's going to do it for us. Until next time, I'm Tamsen Fadal, and this is The Broadway Show.